All right, let's dive right into this explainer and trace the chilling evolution of internet terror. We're going to look at the 10 scariest YouTube channels of all time. And listen, we are not just talking about cheap jump scares or your standard horror movie cliches here. No, we're moving from crafted fictional creations straight down into deeply unsettling real-world mysteries. As we go through this, you'll see exactly how the very definition of what we find frightening has completely shifted in the digital age. It's evolved from things we just imagine in the dark to the very real, terrifying things happening right around us. So think about it. What makes a YouTube channel truly terrifying? Well, to answer that, we have to slowly strip away the safety net of fiction. We're going to be descending from the tip of the internet iceberg, way down into the abyss where the real horrors live. It's a journey that starts purely with the imagination and ends with the unnerving, completely unfiltered reality of the human experience. Because, when you remove the boundary between a story and the real world, the psychology of fear changes entirely. We stop asking what if, and we start asking, wait, is this actually happening? Section 1, Pioneers of Analog Horror. We're starting our countdown with the creators who built the very foundation of modern internet scares. So, the really brilliant thing here is how these early channels essentially created a brand new genre by looking backwards. They weaponized nostalgia. By mimicking the grainy, glitchy look of old VHS tapes and late-night broadcast TV, they trigger our primal fear of the unknown. The visual static and tracking errors actually obscure the truth, right? It forces our brains to fill in those dark, distorted gaps, which effectively makes our own imaginations the biggest monster in the room. You aren't just watching a scary video anymore, you're actively participating in creating the terror. Channels 1 and 2 on our list are absolute foundational pillars. First up, Stephen Chamberlain's No Through Road. This utilized a terrifying time loop framed brilliantly as stolen MI6 footage mysteriously leaked onto YouTube. It felt gritty, amateur, and honestly, incredibly real for its time. Then there's Marble Hornets, which introduced the whole internet to the Slender Man mythos. But the crazy part is they didn't just upload videos. They created a sprawling narrative by hiding clues and using cryptic secondary channels to actually stalk and interact directly with their viewers in the comment section. They literally turned the audience into part of the victim pool. Moving on to our third channel, we have Chris Straub's Local 58. And that phrase, analog horror at 476 megahertz, well, it isn't just a clever tagline. It literally gave the entire genre its name. Local 58 terrified audiences by presenting itself as a continuously hijacked television station. Imagine watching what looks like a totally mundane local weather forecast, only for it to be suddenly interrupted by cryptic, terrifying directives instructing you to go outside and stare up at the moon. It took the comforting, boring format of public access TV and turned it into a vehicle for sheer cosmic dread. Let's jump to channels 4 and 5, where the production value really skyrockets and the psychology gets so much deeper. The Mandela catalog introduced a terrifying threat through alternates. These are shape-shifting doppelgangers who deliberately manipulate media to drive their victims completely mad. It totally preys on that deep fear that you can't even trust your own reflection. Then we have Kane Pixel's Backroom series, which took the internet's obsession with liminal spaces, those familiar but deeply unsettling abandoned places, to a whole new level. Using hyper-realistic 3D rendering, this creator made found footage so incredibly convincing that at just 16 years old, he actually scored a major Hollywood movie deal with A24. Absolutely wild. Section 2. Puppets and Paranoia. Now we're moving slightly below the surface of our iceberg, entering a space where cute aesthetics mask intense psychological dread. Our sixth channel, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared, masterfully juxtaposes Sesame Street-style puppetry with graphic violence and deep existential dread. What starts out looking like a colorful musical lesson taught by Tony the Talking Clock quickly devolves into a terrifying reflection on aging, decay, and the uncontrollable march toward death. It totally disarms you with bright colors, only to hit you with the chilling realization that eventually everyone runs out of time. This brings us to Channel 7, Daisy Brown. Created by Julia Dapper, this channel operates as an alternate reality game, or ARG. Audiences didn't just passively watch this one, they interacted directly through social media with Daisy, who seemed to be a naive woman raising a bizarre, rapidly growing monster named Alan. The profound sense of unease here doesn't come from cheap jump scares. Instead, it grows from the audience realizing in real time just how warped, abusive, and downright dangerous Daisy's view of reality actually is. We basically become helpless bystanders, watching a psychological collapse unfold. Section 3. The Descent into Madness. And this right here perfectly illustrates our pivot from polished fiction to raw, unnerving performances that really begin to blur the lines of reality. Channel 8 Alant Tutorial is just an absolute masterclass in psychological discomfort. It starts innocently enough as a confusing series of entirely useless DIY videos, like literally a tutorial on how to leak water onto a piece of paper, made by this highly isolated persona. But over the years, the channel devolves into something genuinely heartbreaking. The quirky isolation turns sinister, punctuated by the creator desperately declaring that if he doesn't get 1,000 subscribers, he's probably going to take his own life. The line between character and creator becomes uncomfortably, terrifyingly thin here. The narrative escalation of Alan's channel is just staggering. Over a multi-year journey, viewers watched Alan go from making innocent, albeit really strange, videos in his bedroom to being locked out and forced onto the streets. Eventually, the tone shifts into high-stakes terror when he films himself being kidnapped in the back of an Isuzu moving van. The whole series concludes with him being held captive in a featureless white room, forced to make tutorials in exchange for single-dollar bills slid under a door. It's a brilliant piece of performance art critiquing internet culture and the exploitation of creators, but man, it feels entirely too real for comfort. Section 4. Real Life Digital Ghosts. Finally, we plunge into the deepest, darkest part of the internet. We are now exploring channels where the horror isn't scripted, it isn't rendered in 3D, and it is definitely not acted out by performers. We are officially trading the contrived monsters of Daisy Brown and the spooky broadcasts of Local 58 for the mundane, unedited dread of actual human tragedy. Here, the safety net is completely gone. There are no actors waiting to break character and smile when the camera stops rolling. There is no script to neatly wrap up the story at the end. We are left only with the raw isolation and unresolved terror of real life. 8,431, that is the massive number of highly repetitive videos uploaded to our 9th channel, David's Artisan. Over a span of just 2 short years, this channel uploaded an average of 11 videos every single day. And every single video was exactly the same. A shaky camera recording a television playing in a dimly lit bedroom with almost zero human interaction or context provided. For an entire year, people all across the internet wondered if this channel was some bizarre art project, an ARG in the making, or maybe a hidden code left to be cracked. But then, the scenery drastically shifted to a stark hospital room. The increasingly shaky camera work and labored breathing behind the lens hinted at something much darker. It wasn't a contrived ARG. It was the real, painfully quiet documentation of an isolated, bedridden man's final days as his health failed him. The videos stopped abruptly, and the mystery ended only when his real-life obituary was discovered online just a few weeks later. Our 10th and final channel belongs to Chris Lee. Chris was a citizen journalist whose real-world attempts to document the initial 2020 Wuhan outbreak turned into a terrifying digital mystery, one that the entire world watched unfold in real time, right on YouTube. Now, this wasn't a crafted monster. This was a real person walking into the epicenter of a global crisis armed with nothing but a smartphone. As impartial observers of the source material here, we can simply watch his harrowing final moments before his arrest play out sequentially on video for the entire world to witness. He uploads a frantic SOS video while actively fleeing from an unmarked car on the highway. Later on, he streams his tense, terrifying standoff, hiding in total darkness in his hotel room for 3 straight hours, before finally opening his door to surrender to the authorities. It is pure, unedited terror. Without taking any sides on the geopolitics involved, we are simply looking objectively at the content posted on his channel, and the stark contrast is deeply unsettling. He goes from a highly critical journalist questioning infection numbers on the ground to vanishing without a trace, only to suddenly reappear 2 months later, reading a flat, highly scripted speech praising the authorities. It's a chilling reminder of how quickly a voice can be altered, leaving viewers with nothing but a lingering sense of dread and totally unanswered questions. So let's recap what we've explored in this explainer. Our descent started safely at the top with heavily edited alternate reality games, retro analogies, and found footage. We knew we were being scared on purpose. But as we moved down the list, the format shifted. They dissolved into unsettling performance art and ultimately into the unresolved terror of real-world vloggers whose statuses end in absolute tragedy or permanent disappearances. The line between creator and victim completely vanished. Ultimately, what you should take away from this is a lingering question about what truly frightens us. While the shape-shifting monsters and glitches of analog horror are expertly crafted to terrify us, they remain safely confined to their fictional narratives. But the most haunting digital ghosts on YouTube, the ones that really stick with you long after you close your browser and turn off the screen, those are undeniably real. They're the echoes of real lives, forever suspended in the digital abyss.